Both fix and flip and wholesaling can make you a lot of money, but if you're just starting out, you want to build cash quickly, which should you choose? Pay attention and we'll go through it. When you're in your first year of real estate investing business, cash is often pretty critical. And with all the HGTV shows out there, it's easy to get lured into the idea fix and flip is the path to big money. But let's dig a little deeper today. What do you say? And I'll show you how wholesalers actually get better deals than most flippers ever will. If you guys don't know who I am, well, I'm Jeremy Beeland. I am an off-market acquisition expert. I have been in this business since 2017, and since I started my journey in 2017, I've done close to 500 off-market transactions during that time in multiple states around the country, built multiple markets to 7 figures a year annually, and I've done over $10 million in gross profits and assignments since I started my journey. So let's get started. The pros and cons side-by-side comparison. All right, let's look at it. Let's look at both pros and cons of flipping and wholesaling. Let's start with the pros of fix and flip. Well, first of all, you have the bigger potential profits per deal, right? If you're gonna look at average size per deal, right, average revenue per deal, most of the time, flipping is gonna win hands down. Not all the time, but a lot of the time, especially depending on what market you're in. So you could definitely have the potential of getting bigger profits per deal. Another one, visual satisfaction. Taking a piece of junk, turning it into something wonderful. The before and after transformation is really cool. It's really self-satisfying, right? You can take pride and joy in what you do. You can post it all over social media. A lot of people love that stuff. It trends well, gets you a lot of likes and stuff on social media. It attracts a lot of attention. Let's face it, it's pretty freaking cool fixing flipping houses. If it wasn't, we wouldn't watch the HGTV shows, right? You don't see many HGTV shows about wholesaling. There should be, but there isn't, probably because it's not as glamorous and fun to watch. For the average person, fixing and flipping homes is much cooler to do and to see and to watch and everything else. And also, it's really just easier to explain, right? If you're gonna be talking to your friends and family, hey, I flip houses, well, everybody knows what that. If you say I wholesale deals, houses, they're like, the hell is that? What is a wholesale house? I don't understand, right? You buy them and you wholesale them? What does that mean? Like a warehouse? People don't understand that. And also, I think a true legitimate house flipper can build a good reputation in the local market, right? Some wholesalers struggle with this. Not to say that you can't, I think you should, but when it comes to flipping, you can build a better reputation because people actually see the transformation of buying houses, flipping them, and turning them into something different. All right. Pros of wholesaling. Well, let's face it, cash is king here, right? Now, you may make better money on a flip, but boy, the cash cycle in wholesaling is so much better. You can get deals 30 days or less on many of your deals, right? So you're getting out under contract and you're getting paid in 30 days or less. You get a flip, you're lucky to get paid in 90 days, sometimes 120 days. It could be 6 months depending on the market. Right now in Florida, houses are sitting on the market for 60 to 90 days. So even if you flip the house in 30 days, you have to wait an average of 60, 90 days before it sells and you get paid. Not in wholesaling, man. You can turn and burn all day long. So you definitely have faster cash cycle there. No needs for repairs, contractors, debt, construction timelines. You don't have to borrow money. You don't have to worry about contingencies. You don't have to worry about building permits. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So you mitigate all that risk because honestly, once you buy a property, whether you use your money or somebody else's money, there's a lot of risk because if things don't go well, you may lose money, which means you may have to pay your investor back the hard money loan and not make anything. Or worse, you may have to come out of pocket, right? Spend all your hard-earned cash, which I don't have any. And put it into the flip. And then if it doesn't go right, you may be out of cash. That's super, super scary. Let's talk about scalability, right? It's really hard to scale flipping houses. I've been there, I've done that. We're doing a handful now at a time. It is tough. Scaling a wholesaling business is much easier. Going from 1 deal per month to 4 deals a month in a wholesaling business is a lot easier than going from 1 flip to 4 flips, all right? You got to have a lot more contractors, a lot more babysitting. You have to deal with more towns, more permits, more litigation, more lending, just more of everything. And it is very overwhelming. And if you are getting off-market properties as the way to get your deals, flipping is going to pull you away from the sales side of acquiring off-market deals. So if you're a wholesaler and you start to flip, you're going to see your numbers go down on acquisitions because it's hard to do both. Flipping requires a lot of time. And then also there's building your deal finding skills, right? If you're going to be working on acquiring off-market properties and flipping is going to take you away from that, Well, you can't get better at your deal finding skills. Wholesaling, that's all you really focus on, right? Is the art of acquiring off-market deals, getting really consistent with your marketing and your conversations talking to sellers on the phone and in person, and locking up these deals as low as possible, taking these contracts and converting them to revenue by assigning these to somebody else. You get really good at that, you can make a lot of money in this business. But if you start flipping, it's going to take you away from that. And if you're flipping, you're not probably doing that, which means you're probably buying them from wholesalers or buying them off the MLS. And you're probably spending more money than you should on these properties because you're not spending the time and effort to get really good at off-market deals. And guess what? If no wholesalers don't have any deals, or you can't afford to buy the deals off of wholesalers or the MLS, you don't have deal flow. But as a wholesaler, you have built the deal finding skills to consistently get deals every single month. House flippers don't always have that ability. All right, so those are some pros. I put a little bit of cons in there, but let's talk a little bit more about the cons of flipping. Well, let's face it, there's the risk of delays, budget blowouts, permit issues, and if you haven't dealt with certain towns and cities with permits, it can be a logistical nightmare. You may get shut down waiting for a permit. You can't do any work for 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days, and you're still paying interest on that money loan every single month, and you can't do a damn thing. It needs more, usually need more capital of your own money to get involved, right? You're not just sending money out for direct mailing or cold calling or PPC or whatever marketing channel. You're like getting a loan. They're saying we're going to pay you 90% of that, the ARV and the construction loan, but you have to bring 10% or 15% or 20%. That could be tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. So you're going to need rehab funds. You're going to need reserves. You're going to need down payments. You're going to need to make monthly payments. You're going to have permit issues. All right. Let's not even talk about the big elephant in the room, which is fluctuating markets that can crush your margins. Know what happened in 2022? Well, let me tell you if you don't know. The largest interest rate hike in history, right? In a year, we went from like the 2s and 3s to like 7s and 8s. It happened so fast. And guess what happened to the house flippers? A lot of them were screwed. They're big time. All their money was lined up in these like 3, 4, 5, 6 houses. And the market was drastically changing within months. Right? You can buy a house and your ARV could be X. 90 days later, it could be Y because the market has changed. And if you're in it for 6 months or longer, it can drastically change, which happened in 2022. A lot of people had their money and their business tied up into these flips, and these flips weren't selling because nobody was buying. They couldn't afford houses anymore. And you have all these houses under construction, all your money's tied up into them, and they're not selling. Do you know how scary that is? All of a sudden you could be broke, bankrupt, and out of business like that. So much so that in 2023, I didn't flip at all. Now, I've been flipping prior to 2023, and I've been flipping now as I record this in 2025. But in 2023, I didn't flip one house. Because I focus my business on off-market acquisitions, we wholesale, we wholetail, we flip, we do novations, we buy and hold, and we do creative financing, right? We have all those exit strategies. We didn't start out that way. We started out at wholesalers the first couple of years and got really good at acquiring off-market deals. But 2023 was such a crazy market. Honestly, I was afraid seeing what was happening to everybody else. So I just wholesaled and wholetailed deals. I still made $1 million or more in each of the markets that I was doing in, which was Florida and New Hampshire at that time. We still made 7 figures in both those markets, and I didn't have to flip one house. A lot of the flippers during that time were lucky to just stay in business. All right. Another con is really just time consuming. Often it could take 4 to 6 months per project. If you're in places like California, sometimes it could take like 12 months with permit issues. Sometimes with New York, it's really, really tough to navigate that. And again, I just showed you an example, like the market can change. Here in early 2025, we just saw the stock market tank and go right back up. But if it tanks and the economy changes and you're tied up into houses, that's really, really risky. So having the ability to move properties fast is always safer, and it's really tough to do that at a large volume when you're flipping. And again, very hard to scale when it comes to building a team. You're gonna need project managers, you need good contractors, you need to make sure you're scheduling everybody right, all the money you need to borrow. Logistically, flipping at a scale is really, really tough. Some people do it very well. A lot of us, myself included, man, it's not easy. I typically just do a handful at a time, and I'm not involved in day-to-day off-market acquisitions because we have acquisition managers in our business. If I was a wholesaler still doing acquisitions, I would only do 1 or 2 flips at best, and that would be after I had experience being a really good wholesaler. So really tough to scale. All right. Cons of wholesaling. Well, it requires strong communication skills, something we teach here at REI Freedom. But if you're not really good at talking to sellers on the phone and in person, or you don't like even just dealing with people, well, wholesaling isn't for you. Because wholesaling really, as I keep saying, is the art of finding off-market deals, but you're a marketing company first, right? So when it comes to wholesaling, you're a marketing business first. You're marketing to find distressed sellers. And then your service that you provide is solving their problems, and they pay you with equity in their home, right? So as a wholesaler, not only do you have to have strong communication skills dealing with people who are irrational, emotional, habitual procrastinators, make very poor decisions consistently, have avoidance issues, the world's collapsing around them, they're sticking their head in the sand like an ostrich, going, la, 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 everything's fine, everything's okay, and and like the house is blowing up behind them, right? That's what you're dealing with. It's really tough to deal with that, right? And then you have to deal with that. And in order to get the house at a low price, right, 50 cents on the dollar like we typically do, you have to solve their problems. So now logistically, you may have to get them from point A to point B. You may have to deal with all this stuff left behind. You may have to give them money up front to get a place. You may have to help them find a place. You may have to help move them. You may have to keep the couples from fighting. There's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes that isn't glamorous, that most people don't talk about. And as a wholesaler, is really where you earn your money. Getting a contract, getting a house under contract is a huge milestone in this business. But many of those contracts fall apart. That's what they don't teach you on social media. Getting a contract to close is a whole nother ball game. Lead to contract, awesome, great accomplishment. Contract to close, a greater accomplishment. That's where you earn all your money in this business. A lot of people don't want to deal with that. It's time consuming. It's emotional for the person who's a wholesaler. You're playing a therapist, a coach, a parent at times, a motivator. There's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. It's really, really tough. And then let's face it, on top of all that, it's less sexy than flipping houses too, right? Again, I talked about it. Who's watching shows on wholesaling? Nobody. There should be some, but only wholesalers would watch it. The average person doesn't want to watch it because it's not sexy. Taking a piece of junk house and flipping it into something beautiful, that's pretty sexy. Getting a house under contract and helping a motivated seller behind the scenes and getting them to somewhere else and flipping that contract for $20,000, $30,000, it's glamorous for me, but not glamorous for most people who watch it. So, that's definitely a con there. Definitely not as sexy. All right, another one is just requiring, learning to run comps and evaluate deals quickly. When you're sometimes flipping a house, you have the ability to kind of slow down and do this. But when you're a wholesaler, you're like going on appointments and you need to know right away, can I lock up this deal at this price right now? And if you're doing that multiple times a week in multiple markets, that is something you need to learn, right? Really quick. And even if you're in the same market, one side of town over the other side of town can differ drastically and, be very different. So you have to learn all that stuff. And, it takes real work. It's not going to get you rich overnight. Neither model really does. Honestly, neither one is going to get you rich overnight. There is no get rich overnight unless you join Bitcoin at the right time and you did. But most of us, it takes time. Wholesaling is a simple business. Flipping is not. Wholesaling is, but it does require hard work. It is much harder than people make it look like on social media. It is going to require sacrifice and consistent effort, just like anything good in life. It's just like running a marathon, right? You just don't get up and just become a marathon runner. You have to practice and train and learn and put consistent effort into it every day for a period of time to yield a great result. All right, let's do some math. Flip, wholesale. Hope you can see this okay, all right? But let's just do the math, all right? We're gonna do 6 months. In 6 months, you do one flip and you make 30K off that flip. Probably can make more, just depends on what market you're in, right? Okay. But let's say on wholesaling, and this is if everything goes well, all right? Let's say on wholesaling, let's say you get to a point where you're doing 2 deals a month and geez, we'll go super minimal, 10K a month or 10K average profit. Now, if you're in our coaching program, 10K average per deal is not acceptable. We teach you how to make $30,000, $40,000. Honestly, most of my wholesale deals, I make, as much as most people make flipping. And the ones that I cherry pick my pipeline, those are big ticket flips. Everything else I just wholesale away. You can make just as much money wholesaling per deal than you can flipping. But let's just, for the sake of this video, let's do a discussion, right? So here we go, flip. One flip, 30K, 6 months, all right? And then over here, let's just say you're up to 2 wholesales of deals a month and you're making 10K per deal. So 2 wholesales a month, 10K each. Well, 2 times 6 times 10K equals $120,000. 120K, right? Is that right? 2 times 6 is 12, times 10 is 120K, all right? Checking myself out, right? So you can make 120K, or here you can make 30K. The numbers don't really lie, right? Here you don't have a lot of risk here. Here you have a lot of risk. Here, some deals may fall out, and let's just say even if half the deals fall out, 6 deals under contract but only 50% close, you're still making 60K. If this thing goes well, you're making 30K. If it goes over bidding well, you make 40K, 50K. If you're lucky, if things don't go well, 30K could be a lot less than that. So this will yield you better results. This is a slow game. Combination of two are great, but let's face it, if you're going to compare one over the other, wholesaling is going to outperform flipping all day, every day. Now, again, it's not as glamorous, but you can make a lot of money wholesaling, and it's very good. But once you get to the ability to, after a year or two of wholesaling, really, really good in acquiring off-market deals, then you can do what I do in my business. This makes a great flip. Let's take it in-house. We can use one contractor, have it on the market in 90 days, be paid in 3 or 4 months, we can make 6 figures, right? This is too big of a project. This is gonna take us a long time to flip this. Let's wholesale it to somebody else. And plus, the way we wholesale deals, we don't make $10,000. Our average is usually $35,000 a wholesale deal. In 2024, we averaged $45,000 a wholesale deal. And I only probably wholesale about 30% of the deals that I do. The other 60% are mostly wholesales and flips, buy and hold, and some other strategies like creative financing and novations. Wholesaling is great in the beginning. It's not the forever, but wholesaling is going to get you really good at acquiring off-market deals, and then you can build whatever business model from there you want, because you have the ability that the flippers don't. They don't know how to get deals. They don't know how to consistently get deals unless they go to auctions and outbid everybody else, get them from wholesalers. Maybe if they're lucky, some wholesalers just bring them deals, but if they're competing with other house flippers, then they have to compete against other flippers to get the wholesale deal. If it's on the MLS, they have to compete against everybody else. Flippers have to compete against everybody else to get the deal. Yes, as wholesalers, we still have to compete against others to get the deals as well, but we create a lot more opportunities, and we win a lot more of those opportunities than flippers do. So wholesaling over flipping all day long, bro. All right, so flipping may make more money per deal and everything goes right, but wholesaling offers quick wins, faster cash flow, way more reps, which is gonna allow you to get better in time, right? Just like building the muscle, more reps, the bigger, the better you get. If you're serious about getting in the real estate game, well, I got some new training that you don't wanna miss. It's called The Ultimate Guide for More Deals, Bigger Deals, Less Cancellations. Go get it over at the link below. And also remember, every month, 70,000 new homes go into pre-foreclosure every month. This is our opportunity to go on a mission and change that. And you can do that by subscribing to this channel, help make a difference. Please like this so other people will see it. But if you get into this real estate space, you can help a lot of families in your local communities from not going into foreclosure and make a ton of money by helping people. What more could you want? Making a life through real estate investing, a life of real estate freedom by helping people in your community. Doesn't get any better than that. Till next time, guys, thanks so much for watching. Take care.